The 31 most sought-after lost treasures in history. Throughout history, great treasures have been lost, some famous for their monetary value and others for their symbolism. Among the first are the great heists, some so spectacular that they have been brought to television and film. Among the lost objects of high symbolic value is the imperial seal of China, misplaced after more than a millennium of use by emperors. Other losses are intellectual or spiritual, like the great library inherited by Tsar Ivan the Terrible from his grandmother, which was lost in Moscow after the monarch's death, and is said to have housed texts of incalculable value from classical antiquity. Some lost objects are so tied to people's culture and are so sacred, like the Ark of the Covenant, that it wouldn't even be possible to put a monetary value on them. In this video, we will explore the 31 most sought after in history, an entertaining journey through the history of theft and loss, from biblical times to recent dates. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications to stay up to date with our updates. Number 1. The treasure of the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were a military and religious order created in 1119 to defend Jerusalem and the Holy Land from their Muslim neighbors and to protect European pilgrims visiting Christian holy sites. Over time, they gained influence and wealth. In 1307, King Philip IV of France, in collusion with Pope Clement V, exterminated most members of the order and seized part of their treasure. The Pope's role in the operation was the suppression of the order, accusing its members of various crimes so that the King of France could act freely. Philip IV was heavily indebted and saw the annihilation of the Templars as a way to clean up his kingdom's finances. However, it seems that from a financial point of view, the extermination operation was a failure, as most of the treasure never appeared. More than 7 centuries later, the Templars' treasure remains a mystery. Number 2, the Ark of the Covenant. Everyone remembers Raiders of the Lost Ark, the classic Steven Spielberg film where the intrepid archaeologist Indiana Jones experiences incredible adventures searching for the artifact. But what exactly was the Ark of the Covenant? According to the Bible, it was a chest of acacia wood covered in gold, built by Moses following precise instructions from God, in which the tablets of the law and other sacred objects of Judaism were kept. The Israelites carried the ark for decades on their journey through the desert to the Promised Land, and miracles were attributed to it, such as having dried up the Jordan River for the Jewish people to cross. It was located in Jerusalem in the Holy of Holies of Solomon's Temple when the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar sacked and destroyed the city in 587 BC. From that moment on, the Ark of the Covenant disappeared from history. Number 3. The Imperial Seal of China. The Chinese imperial seal, also called the heirloom seal of the realm, was a sacred jade piece carved in 221 BC, shortly after the establishment of the Qin dynasty, which inaugurated the Chinese Empire with the unification of the country. It was made of jade, a material that symbolized the inner beauty of human beings in ancient China. It served as the imperial seal for more than a millennium, being considered the physical symbol of the mandate of heaven. It disappeared towards the end of the Tang dynasty in the early 10th century, becoming lost to history. Number 4. The treasures mentioned in the copper scrolls of the Dead Sea. At the northern end of the Dead Sea in Cisjordan lies the archaeological site of Qumran. It is a place with many caves, and in one of them, a Bedouin shepherd found the first examples of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1946, opening up countless information about life in biblical times to human knowledge. Subsequent excavations allowed the completion of a collection of 972 scrolls, all of parchment and papyrus, except for 2 unusual copper ones, which possibly constitute the 2 parts of a single specimen. The copper scrolls discovered in Cave 3 in 1952 differ from the others not only in their constituent material, but also in the type of information they contain. These atypical scrolls mention more than 60 places where treasures in gold and silver were presumably hidden. However, the indications about the location were written for someone of the time they were made, more than 2,000 years ago, and not for a 21st century treasure hunter, no matter how many metal detectors and GPS he may have. Number 5. The menorah of the Second Temple of Jerusalem. A menorah is a 7-branched candelabrum described in the Hebrew Bible and other ancient documents as the one used in the tabernacle and in the Temple of Jerusalem. It has been an icon of the Jewish people since ancient times, both in the diaspora and in Israel, and became one of the official symbols after the founding of the Israeli state in 1948. In the Second Temple of Jerusalem, built by the Jews after returning from their captivity in Babylon, there was a menorah that was stolen by the Romans in the year 70 AD, when Vespasian and his son Titus seized the city. The menorah of the Second Temple was exhibited in the Temple of Peace in Rome, but this building burned down in 191, and the sacred object disappeared, it being unknown whether it was destroyed by the flames or stolen. Procopius mentions that perhaps the Vandals took it to Carthage after sacking Rome in 455. Number 6. The Scepter of Dagobert. Dagobert. I was a Frankish king who reigned between 623 and 634. He made Paris his capital and was the first Frankish king buried in the royal tombs of the Basilica of Saint-Denis. Only 36 years old at the time of his death, Dagobert is considered the last of the great Merovingian kings, having effectively defended his territory against the eastern hordes. He had a scepter 56 centimeter long, of filigreed and enameled gold, in which 3 parts could be distinguished: the rod, a hand holding the world, and the statue of a bird at the top. It is believed that the scepter was the work of the master goldsmith Éloi de Noyon, a bishop abbot and royal councillor who was distinguished by his attention to the poor and the rescue of captive slaves, being later canonized as Saint Eligius. Dagobert's scepter became part of the French crown jewels as one of its oldest pieces, and was kept in the treasury of the Basilica of Saint-Denis until 1795, when it was stolen, never to be seen again. Number 7. King John's jewels. John of England loved to collect gold plates and jewels. In 1216, the monarch was on a military campaign in King's Lynn, Norfolk, in a marshy area, and contracted dysentery, so he decided to return to Newark Castle to treat the illness. John travelled with several chests full of jewels, including crowns inherited from previous monarchs, which took a shorter but more dangerous route through the swamps. The king took a slower but safer path. The treasure cart was lost in the swamps and was never heard from again. The king died shortly after, in the same year, amidst the sadness over the disappearance of his chests filled with jewels, which contained one of the greatest lost treasures in history. It remained unclear whether the cart sank in the swamps or if the treasure was stolen by its custodians. Number 8. The Just Judges. The Just Judges is the name of the lower panel of the Ghent altarpiece, painted by the Flemish master Jan van Eyck or his brother Hubert in the early 1430s. The panel was exhibited along with the rest of the altarpiece in St. Bavo Cathedral in Ghent, Belgium, when it was stolen on the night of April 10, 1934, possibly by the Belgian Arsène Goudetier. The panel was removed from the frame very carefully, and in the empty space, the thief left a note with the message in French, "Taken from Germany by the Treaty of Versailles." This alluded to the fact that the German Empire had appropriated the altarpiece during World War I, taking it to Berlin, only to have to return it under the post-war Treaty of Versailles. The Belgian Goudetier had proclaimed himself the thief, and on his deathbed he told his lawyer that only he knew where the panel was, and that he intended to take the secret to his grave. Number 9. Dutch Schultz's treasure. Dutch Schultz was an American mobster of Dutch descent who made a fortune during the Great Depression through bootlegging and illegal lotteries. Schultz's businesses were threatened by 2 tax evasion trials initiated against him by prosecutor Thomas Dewey. The mobster asked the commission for authorization to kill the prosecutor, and upon not receiving permission, he tried to do so anyway, which led Lucky Luciano to order his death, which was carried out when he was shot in a New York restaurant on October 23, 1935, dying the next day. In the New York organized crime world, the legend spread that shortly before being executed by his mafia comrades, Schultz buried $7 million in cash and bonds somewhere in the Catskill Mountains. If found in good condition, these bills would be worth more as collector's items than as current money. Number 10. The Florentine diamond. The Florentine diamond is a currently lost Indian diamond of yellow color, with slight greenish hues, cut in the shape of an irregular double rose with 9 sides, 126 facets, and a weight of 137.2 carats. It is said that Duke Charles the Bold of Burgundy wore it when he died in the Battle of Nancy in 1477, and a soldier or peasant appropriated it, selling it for 2 francs, thinking it was glass. Afterwards, it fell into the hands of Bartholomeus Maec, a man from Bern, who sold it to the Genoese, later passing into the hands of Duke Ludovico Sforza, until it finally reached the Medici family's treasury in Florence. Pope Julius II has also been mentioned as one of its owners. From the Medici it passed to the Habsburgs, and after the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I, Charles I of Austria took it into exile. It was stolen in 1918, taken to South America, and it is believed that in the 1920s it arrived in the United States, where it was cut and sold. Number 11. The Great Bell of Damazedi cast with 294 tons of metals, including tin, copper, gold, and silver. This bell, manufactured in 1484, is believed to have been the largest ever seen in the world. It was made by order of King Damazedi, ruler of the Lower Burma territory in present-day Myanmar, and placed in the Shwedagon Pagoda in Dagon. The royal astrologer proposed to the king to postpone its presentation, noting that it would not sound due to a misalignment of the crocodile constellation. When the bell was rung, it is said to have produced an unpleasant sound. It was taken from the pagoda and carried downstream by the Bago River, tied to a ship that sank along with the bell. It has been intensely sought without success. Number 12. The lost gold of the Incas. Several legends speak of Paititi, a lost Inca city. It is claimed that in this city, the ancient Incas hid their treasures from the Spanish during the conquest of Peru. Thanks to the legends surrounding Paititi and its unknown location, the lost city has become the equivalent of the legendary El Dorado. According to researchers, all that is known about the Golden City is that it is located in the Peruvian. During its search, over the last 6 centuries, many other settlements were found where information was found that seemed to confirm the existence of Paititi. Perhaps in the future it can be clarified if both cities really existed, if they did so separately, or if they were the same. Number 13. The Library of the Tsars of Moscow. The Library of the Tsars of Moscow, also called the Library of Ivan the Terrible, is believed to have contained a legendary collection of ancient books, as it disappeared after the death of this monarch. Although there is no irrefutable evidence that it existed, it remains a great challenge for archaeologists and historians, although many believe that it was most likely destroyed by fire or a similar catastrophe. It is claimed that the library was formed by Sophia Paleolog, niece of the last Byzantine emperor Constantine IX, wife of Ivan III of Russia, and grandmother of Ivan the Terrible, who inherited it. Sophia is said to have brought more than 800 books from Rome to Moscow, including masterpieces of classical Greek and Roman antiquity. The Tsar, who clubbed his son and heir apparent to death, would have enriched the collection with rare works from all over Europe. According to legend, the Terrible hid the library somewhere in Moscow, and after his death, its location was lost. Number 14. The Amber Room. A symbol of 18th century European art, the Amber Room was the pride of the Romanov family. Tsar Peter I the Great, the first Russian emperor, was known for his fondness for curiosities. His collection of unusual and unique objects ranged from human embryos with deformities to rare minerals, and continues to be on display in St. Petersburg, the former imperial capital he built. Kings across Europe knew that the best way to please the powerful Russian monarch was by gifting him something valuable or strange. And in 1716, Frederick William the Fede of Prussia won Peter I's favour by presenting him with a large quantity of amber panels, gold leaf and mirrors, enough to clad a large room. The design and construction were carried out by the best Baroque artists of the time, and the room was then called the Eighth Wonder of the World. It was dismantled by the Germans during the invasion of Russia in World War II, and one of the highest expressions of Baroque art disappeared from history. Number 15. Nelson's Chelenk. The chelenk was an Ottoman Empire military decoration consisting of a jeweled plume with a central flower with leaves and buds and upward-pointing rays. Sultan Selim III awarded a chelenk to Horatio Nelson, specially crafted in honor of the British Vice-Admiral after defeating Napoleon's fleet at the Battle of the Nile in 1798. This was the first time a chelenk was granted to a non-Ottoman personality. Nelson's decoration was acquired in 1929 by the Society for Nautical Research and placed in the National Maritime Museum, from where it was stolen in 1951 by the thief George Patatas Chapman, disappearing from public record. Number 16. The Royal Casket. The royal casket was a large wooden chest containing 73 valuable objects that had belonged to Polish royalty over time, assembled in 1800 by princess and art collector Izabela Czartoryska. The treasure included a gold snuff box decorated with diamonds from King Stanisław August Poniatowski, a gold watch from King Augustus II, another gold watch from Queen Marie Casimir, a silver rosary from Queen Marie Leszczyńska, and many other valuable objects. The royal casket managed to survive the Polish political turmoil during the 19th and part of the 20th centuries, changing locations. At the outbreak of World War II, it was moved from Kraków to Puławy, where it was hidden in a bricked-up deposit. However, when Germany occupied Poland, a German living in the city discovered the hiding place, and Wehrmacht soldiers plundered the casket and divided the spoils. Number 17. The Treasure of Lima. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, the viceroyalty of Peru and the Catholic Church accumulated a vast treasure in Lima. In 1820, amidst the War of Independence, the Peruvian city was very turbulent, and the viceroy decided to send the riches to Mexico to keep them safe. However, the captain and crew of the Mary Dear, the ship transporting the valuable cargo, changed from sailors to pirates, killed the guards and priests accompanying them, and threw the bodies overboard. They hid the treasure on Cocos Island in Costa Rica for the situation to calm down, but they were never able to return for it. Treasure hunters worked assiduously for decades on the Costa Rican island until the government prohibited searches. Number 18. The Twin Sisters. The Twin Sisters was the name given to two cannons used by the Texas Army during the Revolution of 1835-1836, which ended with the de facto independence of Texans from the Centralist Republic of Mexico. It is claimed that the twin sisters won the Battle of San Jacinto, a confrontation fought on April 21st, 1836, which was the definitive end of the Texas Revolution. It is also believed that the cannons were used during the Mexican invasions of 1842 and in the American Civil War. There are several theories about the disappearance of the sisters, including that they sank in quicksand near the city of Goliad, or that they were melted down to make steel. This hypothesis is perhaps the most probable, as when the cannons were last sighted in 1865, they were in a scrap yard in Houston. They are currently colloquially called the Holy Grail of Texas. Number 19. The Lost Dutchman's Mine. Every treasure hunter is aware of the Lost Dutchman's Mine, presumably located somewhere in the Superstition Mountains near Apache Junction, east of Phoenix, Arizona. This lost gold mine was found by a Mexican family in the early 19th century. For years, the Mexicans extracted an unspecified, though presumably very large amount of the precious metal until almost all of them died at the hands of the Apaches who dominated the region. The last person who supposedly found the mine was a European immigrant named Jacob Waltz, who hid part of the treasure in the mountains with the help of a partner. Waltz died in 1891, but before that, he told the location to a neighbor who died without having informed anyone else about the location. Many have tried unsuccessfully to find the mine, which has been described as a cursed place because several of the people who undertook the search never returned. Number 20. The Romanov Easter Eggs. Peter Carl Fabergé, a Russian jeweler of French origin, became famous for the exceptional beauty and quality of his works, particularly the Fabergé eggs. The Russian imperial tradition of Fabergé eggs began in 1885 when Tsar Alexander III commissioned a decorative Easter egg as a gift for his wife, Maria Feodorovna. The white gold egg looked like a valuable but ordinary object. However, it held secrets inside. A golden yolk Russian matryoshka like dolls also opened to reveal a golden hen with ruby eyes, and inside the bird, a gold and diamond miniature of the imperial crown. From that moment on, Fabergé made an egg for the emperor every year, a tradition that his son and successor Nicholas II continued, commissioning a total of 44 jewels. Each egg is worth a fortune, but 8 are missing, whose value, if found, would be even greater. Number 21. The Romanian Treasure. This treasure did not mysteriously disappear. Rather, it was appropriated and has not been returned. In 1916, during World War I, the Romanian government sent a treasure of approximately 120 tons of valuable objects and gold reserves to Tsarist Russia to protect it from the Central Powers. However, after the October Revolution and the Bolshevik communists' seizure of power, the Russian leader Vladimir Lenin withdrew Russia from the war, broke relations with Romania, and confiscated the treasure. The Soviet Union maintained the confiscation, and only a small part of the treasure was returned between 1935, 1956, and 2008. This last delivery, made by Russia after the dissolution of the USSR, has only been gestures of goodwill, not including gold, and only for a minimal fraction of the treasure's value. Number 22. Peking Man. The discovery of Peking Man played a decisive role in the founding of Chinese anthropology, fostering a fruitful exchange between Western and Eastern anthropological science in the following decades. The first fossil, a tooth found in 1921 in the Zhoukoudian cave, initiated a chain of discoveries until the Homo erectus site became the most productive in the world. In 1941, the human fossils from Zhoukoudian, with pieces belonging to at least 40 different individuals, were placed in wooden trunks for the United States Marine Corps to move them away from danger and possible destruction amidst the Second Sino-Japanese War. The boxes were planned to be loaded onto a ship that was to dock in Qinhuangdao, port to transport the fossils to New York, where they would be stored in the American Museum of Natural History. However, the ship ran aground after a Japanese attack, and the boxes were lost somewhere between Beijing and the embarkation port. Number 23. The Patiala Necklace. The Patiala necklace was a jewel designed and made by Cartier as part of the largest commission received by the French luxury goods manufacturer in its entire history. In 1925, the Maharaja of Patiala asked Cartier worth 1 billion rupees, equivalent to 2.7 billion in 2023, and the necklace was delivered in 1928. The jewel consisted of 5 chains and a choker with a total of 2,130 diamonds, including a central piece with a pre-cut weight of 428 carats and 234.65 carats in its final setting. The piece also had 7 other diamonds between 18 and 73 carats and several Burmese rubies. The Patiala necklace disappeared from the royal treasury in 1948, and since then only some diamonds have been recovered, so it is assumed that it was dismantled for sale. Number 24. The Sword of Islam. In 1934, after creating Italian Libya, the dictator Benito Mussolini adopted a policy of rapprochement with Islam, building mosques and madrasas, facilitating the journey of pilgrims going to Mecca, and inaugurating an Islamic culture high school in Tripoli. Local Muslim leaders who supported Italy's occupation of Libya declared the fascist leader a protector of Islam, and to symbolize their alliance, they presented him with a sword. The weapon became known as the Sword of Islam. A year later, an equestrian statue of Mussolini was inaugurated in Tripoli with the legend, "To Benito Mussolini, pacifier of the people, redeemer of the land of Libya," proclaiming in the dictator's sign a loyalty that defied destiny. The Italian had the sword placed in a reliquary in his summer residence in Rocca delle Caminate. But the piece disappeared in July 1943 when the mansion was looted and devastated. Number 25. Yamashita's gold. This is the name given to a presumed and succulent loot gathered by the Japanese general Tomoyuki Yamashita, known as the Tiger of Malaya and the Rommel of the Jungle, during his campaigns in Southeast Asia during World War II. The treasure was supposedly hidden in caves, underground complexes, and tunnels in several cities in the Philippines. Although some versions indicate that it remains hidden in the Philippines, others rule out its existence. However, the legend has attracted treasure hunters for the last 7 decades. It was even the subject of a lawsuit filed in Hawaii in 1988, in which Filipino citizen Rogelio Roxas sued the dictator of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos. According to Roxas, he discovered a fraction of the treasure, but was dispossessed of it by Marcos's order. Number 26. The Awa Maru's treasure. The MV Awa Maru was a Japanese ocean liner built in 1943 by Mitsubishi as a passenger ship before being requisitioned by the Imperial Navy to be incorporated into the war fleet as a relief vessel. In 1945, the Awa Maru was sailing under the auspices of the Red Cross, supposedly transporting vital supplies for American and Allied prisoners of war under Japan's custody, when it was sunk by the U.S. submarine USS Queenfish amidst a confusing situation. Of the 2,004 occupants of the Awa Maru, only 1 survived, and a treasure said to be on board consisting of gold, diamonds and platinum worth more than $5 billion was also lost. Other sources indicate that the cargo was rubber, tin, lead and sugar. Number 27. The Lufthansa heist. The Lufthansa heist was a robbery that took place on December 11, 1978, in the cargo area of the German airline Lufthansa at Kennedy Airport in New York. The thieves took $5 million in cash and $875,000 in jewels, equivalent to $27.6 million in 2023. At the time, it was the largest cash robbery in U.S. history, and neither the money nor the jewels were ever recovered. The mastermind was said to be James Burke, an associate of the Lucchese crime family, but he was never charged. It was also rumored that Burke ordered the murder of several participants to avoid being implicated in the heist and reduce the number of beneficiaries. The only person convicted was Louis Werner, an airport employee who collaborated in the planning. Number 28. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum robbery. In the early morning of March 18, 1990, two men dressed as police officers appeared at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, claiming they were responding to an alarm call. The supposed police officers held the guards at gunpoint, tied them up, and looted the museum for an hour, taking 13 works of art worth $500 million. The Dutch room was particularly devastated, losing paintings by Rembrandt and Johannes Vermeer. The case remains open, and no arrests have been made, nor have any works been recovered. The museum offered $10 million for information leading to the recovery of the works, the largest reward promised by a private institution. Number 29. The Antwerp diamond heist, dubbed the heist of the century. This was one of the most spectacular in history and the largest diamond embezzlement ever carried out. The thieves took loose diamonds, gold, silver, and other valuables, totaling an estimated $100 million. It took place in Antwerp, Belgium, on the night of February 15, 2003, and the thieves overcame a lock with 100 million possible combinations: a seismic sensor, infrared, heat detectors, a Doppler radar, and a magnetic field. In addition, the building had a private security service and was located in Antwerp's Diamond District, one of the most monitored business areas in the world. Most of the diamonds have not been recovered. Number 30. The Treasure of La Noche Triste. On La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows, between June 30th and July 1st, 1520, Hernán Cortés and his Spanish army, along with their indigenous allies, were expelled from Mexico Tenochtitlan by the Lichi Aztecs. With Moctezuma dead, Cortés and his men knew they were in a precarious situation in the city and decided to flee, taking advantage of the darkness of night. The Spanish leader ordered part of the gold looted from the natives to be packed, and allowed his men to carry another part as personal baggage. This would cause the death of many soldiers who overloaded themselves and were more exposed when fleeing through the causeways, or who fell into the water and could not get out due to that after almost 800 years, Genghis Khan's tomb remains one of the most important lost sites in history. We hope this video has been useful to you. If you have anything to add, please share it with us in the comments section, like this video, and send the link to your family and best friends so they can also learn more about the 31 most sought-after lost objects in history. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on all our social networks, which will be linked below in the description. Remember, a people who do not know their history are condemned to repeat it.